Hello world, this is Edward Bevilacqua, the editor of La Voce magazine, and I have the good fortune of sitting here with Gian Brown, an attorney here in Las Vegas. Hi, John.
Greetings, I'm delighted to be here.
And thank you for taking the time. You have a beautiful view out that window.
I do. I have western exposure, so I get a little bit of the Red Rock Mountains as well as the 350 plus days a year blue sky and sun that we have here in the southern Nevada Valley.
And last week, did you see some snow?
We did. I live actually up a little further from here in Centennial Hills, so there was definitely snow at Mount Charleston. That's the tallest mountain in southern Nevada.
Oh.
But on the Red Rock Mountains, there was a dusting up top as well.
Now, based upon your answer, my hunch is you might know how tall Mount Charleston is.
I should. If I were a good Las Vegan, I would. But I'm afraid I don't.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it because I know you are a busy attorney. This is really a nice looking law firm office.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're in Summerlin, which is the northwestern part of town. And although I'm busy, I'm never too busy not to read.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So your Italian roots, what part of Italy is your family from?
Well, I am half Italian. My first name is spelled G-I-A-N, and my usual icebreaker when I introduce myself is to say that I have an Italian mother, which I do, who wanted the world to know I was half Italian. That Italian side of my family comes from, I understand, Naples, although I was also told from a small town called Torre Maggiore. And if you've looked it up on many maps of Italy, it seems that Torre Maggiore is actually a little bit further away from Naples, not quite down in Neapolitan area. So
I see.
I may be wrong, or maybe my family's a little bit.
And what is your mother's maiden name?
Guida, although she was a product of Guida marrying an Avallone. So I've got close relations with cousins who are Avallones and also Guidas.
I see. Okay, good. And when your family came over, what year was that? Your Italian family?
That would have been in the 1910s, I believe, maybe earlier.
And that would have been your mother's father?
Yeah, it was actually her grandparents, my great-grandparents. And I believe they came in through Ellis Island. My mom's been to that museum and I believe has seen their signatures or something.
Yeah, and then they went where?
They opened a store for a time up in the Arthur Avenue section of the Bronx, I believe.
Okay.
And there are stories of my grandfather refusing to pay protection money, and so his store windows got broken.
Okay.
And then eventually they migrated out to California. What I don't recall is whether that was before or after my great-grandfather died. But my grandmother and my great-grandmother were in Pasadena, California, Glendale, California.
And so then there's an interesting story of your mother going back.
Yeah. So interestingly, so the Italian family, of course, or the Italian natives left, never to see their family again. They came here, then some went to the West Coast, but some stayed on the East Coast. And my great-grandmother had a son, my Uncle Eugene, who stayed on the East Coast. And my mom, who was in her 20s, got tapped to take my great-grandmother back to New York. And so she and my great-grandmother flew. It was the first time, at least my great-grandmother, I believe, was ever on a plane. And my understanding of the story is that at 5 hours, they landed, and my great-grandmother refused to get off the plane because she couldn't believe that they were in New York in that time.
Okay. And then your mother met your father.
Yes. Dad was teaching at Columbia University. Mom started taking some classes there, and I think she ended up working with him. And they met, and one thing led to another. They eventually got married, had my sister, and then had me 5 years later.
Okay. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Leonia, New Jersey, just over the George Washington Bridge, northern New Jersey.
And so is that what you say about yourself, northern New Jersey?
That's where I view myself as being from, although there's such a sprawl from New York City, and we have cousins in different parts of New York City.
Okay, so my East Coast geography is not good. Philadelphia is what, southwest of there?
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, and so somebody I work with that's involved in La Voce, she is from Philadelphia, but really grew up on the Margate, New Jersey.
Sure.
Or near Atlantic City, right?
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Not far from the shore. That's a pretty part of New Jersey.
Okay. And how far is that from where you are in New
Oh,
Jersey?
probably about maybe a 90-minute drive. Depends on,
Okay.
on traffic.
And how far is it from Philadelphia?
Again, probably Leonia is maybe a 2.5 hour drive because you're going,
Okay.
you're sort of bisecting the state as you're going south,
I see.
getting through some urban areas.
So at that place, geographically, New York, Philadelphia, or New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey are pretty close?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as compared to what people think of out here in the West.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. So you grew up there
Mhm.
and you went to high school there.
Yes, I went to public school through 8th grade and then Bergen Catholic High School and all boys Catholic high school for my high school years.
And what about undergraduate?
NYU, at the time my mom was working at NYU Medical Center. She was the head of social service. And so I was able to get a deeply, deeply discounted ride to NYU and was able to do that.
And then because of your grades, you were able to go to a really good school.
Well, I worked for 3 years. I kind of
Okay.
graduated as a liberal arts student,
Ah.
qualified to do nothing, and I ended up working with attorneys. And despite working with attorneys, decided I wanted to go to law school. So yes, you're right. I had the good fortune of putting myself through Fordham Law School, which is in Manhattan.
Yeah, and Jesuit University.
Jesuit indeed.
Okay. And is it recognized as a reputable, good school?
Yeah,
On
it's
East
got a
Coast?
very good reputation. The night school, I think, is #1 or #2 in the country. And Fordham, like every other New York law school, New York-based law school, very well regarded, very close-knit alumni.
Uh-huh.
And so I had the good fortune of getting my first job by virtue of just having a very close alumni at Fordham.
I see. And then your career took you kind of not in the, you didn't work for a law firm, right?
Well, I
Or
did.
you
So
started-
I had worked as a legal assistant, then put myself through law school, and the folks who I've worked with had said, gee, if you ever get a chance, you should try and clerk for a judge. And so I ended up clerking for a federal judge right out of law school in Mobile, Alabama, which
Wow.
was the first time I was out of the tri-state area of that New York, New Jersey sprawl.
Huh.
And loved it. I was there for a year, and then I went back to a law firm in New York. I was in New York for about 18 months, and then I was at another law firm in Atlanta for about 3 more years. And then eventually I came out here about 14 years ago.
Okay. And when you were there, that was sort of in-house attorney, or what were you? Were you practicing law?
Well,
Or
I
were you-
was, at the
mergers and
law
acquisitions,
firms.
or-
That's exactly right. I'm a corporate transactional attorney. And so I did public company and private company mergers and acquisitions, but then a broader corporate practice in Atlanta that included financings and contracts and things of that nature. For the last year that I lived in Atlanta, I jumped off and was in-house counsel at an internet-related company, and then was recruited by a former client of mine to come out here to Las Vegas. Here I was in-house counsel for a corporate venture capital activity, and then ended up being tapped and asked to expand my role beyond legal work. And so I, for about 12 years, did corporate development roles for this company, a large government contractor called SAIC.
Mhm. And now what brought you here to Las Vegas?
Well, I was actually recruited for this job, this in-house legal job for the corporate venture capital activity, and flew out here and thought, well, I couldn't get a real sense of the city. And so figured I could live anywhere for a couple of years, which is what I thought it was going to be, and moved out.
So what time of the year was that?
I came visiting in the fall.
Of what year?
This was fall of fall of 2000, because I
Wow.
moved out here January 2001.
Okay, I did not know you've been here that long.
Yeah,
And what was
almost a native.
yeah. What was your first thought when you arrived?
Well, everyone always notices the slot machines. in
Well,
the
wait,
area,
hold on.
But
Was this your first trip to Las Vegas?
technically, no. I
Okay.
had spent maybe 24 hours in Las Vegas after a 14-day Grand Canyon excursion thing that I had done, and that had been culture shock. So I didn't have a crisp memory of Las Vegas
Okay.
when I flew
All right.
in to start scoping out the opportunity.
Okay, so for our viewers, so this trip, when you came here,
Could have been my first trip because
well,
it's,
yeah, exactly. So how did you feel when you got here? And you were thinking about maybe moving here, right?
yeah, I was leaving Atlanta where I had cultivated a lot of good friends and
Uh-huh.
enjoyed life in Atlanta. I never thought I would love life outside of New York, and here I had fallen in love with Atlanta and
Uh-huh.
came out here and thought the area was just very official.
Okay.
And that's understandable because what you're hit with first, you're slapped in the face with the strip and all that's down there.
Right.
And while that's attractive to many, it's not always attractive to everyone.
Right.
But very quickly, I had a chance to come out northwest of town where I saw the Red Rock Mountains and realized you live in a valley, and within about 30 minutes, you can be in this beautiful desert by yourself.
Yeah.
Very little light pollution, very little life,
Right.
seemingly to have a little life. And so I pretty quickly started realizing this was a nuanced area to live.
Okay, that's a good term. I'm going to use that. Can I put that in the next edition?
You absolutely can.
So, but then if you go 30 minutes the other way, you're up in the mountains. You could be up in the snow pretty
Indeed.
much, right?
Indeed. In fact, I live at near Mount Charleston, and I do a road race there in July where we start early in the morning and you run up about 6 miles up the mountain.
Wow.
And you start with 40-degree weather early in the morning, and you see all the change in the topography as you go up. So yes, you can get a sense of not even being where you are pretty easily here.
And how long does it take to get to the lake?
Are we talking about Lake Las Vegas or Lake Mead?
Yeah.
Probably about 50 minutes
From where you
depending
are.
on traffic. Yeah, about
So that's
40
close.
minutes. Yeah.
So you really get a sense of a lot of different areas, except there's not a lot of trees.
Correct. No foliage. So I was used to different leaves changing and then dropping in northern New Jersey, and we don't have that here. And I miss those changes, but I don't miss the raking of the leaves. I don't miss the shoveling of the snow either.
Yeah. And what about the bugs in the summer?
Yeah, so we do have mayflies that seem to come out in June.
But that's like for a few days, isn't it?
And that, I'd say it's for a couple of weeks, maybe
Okay.
2 to 4 weeks. I live near a golf course, and they have a couple of water features that causes the mayflies to linger longer. Although we have a pretty interesting bat population that swoops in at dusk and takes care of that.
Okay. And but then eventually you decided you're going to get your law degree. Here.
Well,
not law degree, you're a member of the bar.
Yeah, so I was admitted to practice in New York, but when I came out here to the role that I had, the Nevada bar did not require that I get licensed.
Okay.
And so I had no reason to until about late 2012, I decided I wanted to bite the bullet and go ahead and do that. And Nevada has a relatively rigorous bar, a 3.5 day experience. So I did that and got admitted and eventually got recruited to the role I have right now. I'm of counsel at a law firm here called Holland & Hart.
Okay. And so you went back to bar review?
No, I actually borrowed books from someone who had,
Okay.
and I told my wife somewhat arrogantly, I've passed a couple of these already. I think I can just be disciplined and do it. And thankfully I was able to get it done. But there were some white knuckle moments as I got closer and closer to taking the bar.
So, and do you ever have to do any practicing law here? Do you ever have to go down to the courthouse or deal with other
Only if I
litigation or
screwed something
anything?
up horribly. I'm a
Okay.
transactional attorney, and so I do a lot of drafting of contracts and negotiating of transactions, and candidly, a lot of times just sort of helping folks understand what they're trying to accomplish, and I feel like I add value or create value by helping them get there.
Okay.
I have done some pro bono work. Pro bono is the notion of doing some free legal services for folks who can't afford it, and I do some volunteer work with the Southern Nevada Senior Law Project. I represented a woman in small claims court. She was a defendant in a small claims matter.
Okay. So that's bringing in heavyweights.
Well, I think my transactional skill came into bearing there because we were able to go through a mediation and get to a good outcome for everyone. And
Okay.
so thankfully I didn't have to plead a case in front of a judge. I would have gotten a lot of snickers.
Oh, okay. So how do you find the legal community here?
I actually find it
compared to Atlanta. Let's say that first.
Yeah, so
Sophisticated or kind of Wild West?
I've got probably 3 comparisons. There's New York and Atlanta, which were somewhat similar in the sense of almost anonymous because there's so many people and such a large population. And then you have Mobile, where I was just for a year. Smaller folks sort of knew each other, and there was a bit more accountability. This has got a large number of attorneys in town, but I'd say it's a fairly collegial bunch, at least on the transactional side. I haven't had to go deal with litigators, and so they may be more aggressive. But I've been very, very pleased with the professional friends I have. I know one of them, Bob Anderson, I think is one of the people who's been involved with you all, interviewed by you.
Yeah.
You know, there are people like him who just when they understood what I was trying to do, changes in my career and all that, they just reached out a hand and were very helpful. And that's generally the experience I've gotten from all the other transactional attorneys I've bumped into. And because perhaps there's that accountability, it seems like there's greater ability to live among the bar, and that's
not really cutthroat here.
Well, I think there's accountability, and people know that you're gonna pass each other again, and so there's no reason not to have some courtesy with one another.
We
appreciate.
And so now, I was telling you a little bit earlier that part of the mission for La Voce is to spread the word throughout the country that Las Vegas really does have a vibrant Italian-American community. And you grew up in an area that had a vibrant, or at least a large number of Italians. I think here, I'm a member of the Italian-American Club, and it's kind of like we all moved here from somewhere else.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things in common. Let's share those things. And I think in some ways it makes us close, maybe different than what you experienced growing up, where everybody had maybe been there for a generation already.
Yeah, I'd say that where I grew up, and I don't want to pretend that Leonia was an Italian conclave, but that part of New York City, or that part of the New York sprawl, had lots of conclaves, or enclaves, but it was a bit of tribes, if you will, who had settled down there and hadn't really moved. Whereas here, I think you've got lots of folks from all over. My wife's from Buffalo, and so there's some Buffalo Italians.
There's a lot of Buffalo Italians here.
Trip over some good pizza and other things like that, and it gives my wife wonderful memories. She misses the food of Western New York.
I see. Now, speaking about food, where are some places you like to go for pizza?
Well, sadly, I've had a hard time since my mid-30s of digesting cheese, and so I've had to eschew pizza. But, so my wife's the one who tends to go around with that. There's 900 Degrees, which is Chef Mark's pizza place, which is up near us. That's right, up in Centennial.
He has one in Henderson too.
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
And then there are some others that my wife tends to go to. She tends to go with friends other than me, since I really can't partake in.
Right. So, are you familiar with Dom DeMarco's?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I know them by reputation.
Okay. How about Settebello?
Yeah,
in Henderson?
Another one. Yes, another one. Very well regarded.
Yeah. How about an Italian restaurant, Trattoria Reggiano?
So I've not had a chance to eat there yet, but I've heard only good things about it.
Yeah, they are in the Venetian.
Oh, okay, sure.
But they're opening one in downtown Summerlin.
Excellent.
In April.
Excellent.
So
that'll make life easier.
And they're part of La Voce. Really good family.
Yeah.
Very supportive of the community.
Ferraro's, which is not too far down the strip. It's on Paris, as I recall.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to eat there once or twice and thought they were delicious.
Ferraro's is good. How about Nora's?
Yes, although it's been a while, so I thought they might have moved. But yes,
they're on Flamingo. Yeah, they're on Flamingo. It's in this direction on this side of town.
Okay.
But all the part of one of the great things about Italians, my experience is we do things to exceed expectations.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, we don't just have cars, but that Italian design cars. Even if you look at the Fiats, they are, they're a good design. And of course, you go up to the Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Maseratis. They're over the top. Italian food is not really just good enough, right?
Sure.
It's just a little bit better than that. Yeah. And we've been interviewing construction guys recently, and I talked to them about what makes you successful. And it's just, sort of this thing of we work till we exceed expectations, and we just don't meet expectations. We don't come just under expectations and then argue about, well, this is what you said, and no, I didn't say that. It's just, we work hard. And in your family, did your mother cook?
She did.
Okay.
Yeah, she did. Now she worked, and so I remember fondly Saturdays and Sundays, because those are the days when all the cooking really occurred. and then we would make lunches for the whole week and put in the refrigerator
Okay.
and all that. So
And did your dad fit into the Italian culture?
he did. He fit in initially as an outsider, and Mom tells a story of one of his first Christmas Eves where he traveled up to Loughborough, which is where one of my great uncles lived, and it was his job along with my mom to bring up the eels that were alive until they got cooked. And so I rode the train forever up to Loudville, New York, and so he had this first Christmas Eve dinner where he kept thinking each course was the main course, and then they'd clear the dishes and they'd talk and dance, and then they would have the next course, and Dad said, "When does it end?" And 9-10 hours later, and 12, 13 courses later,
Sure.
came to an end.
Okay, so I know you're busy, and I have one last question.
Oh, sure.
Growing up, was it sauce or gravy?
Oh, geez, I had never heard gravy. It was always sauce.
Okay.
And gravy, candidly, sounds as if there was almost nails on a board, which I'm sure is just a matter of where you're from.
I always remember sauce.
Mhm.
My father said when he grew up, his mother was always gravy.
Wow.
I don't remember that. And then my dad said, technically it is gravy because there's meat, or if there's meat in it, it's gravy.
Interesting. Okay, that was a degree of technical specificity that we didn't have.
Yeah, and yesterday I was talking to a woman from Italy who said, no, it is absolutely not gravy. It's absolutely sauce. And anybody
Excellent.
who says it's gravy is wrong,
That's too funny.
because gravy has flour in it.
So you have, oh, is that right?
That's what
Okay.
she said.
Yes, and
And-
there was definitely no flour in our sauce.
Yeah.
So you've settled it once and for all.
Well, hopefully. John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun, and I know our viewers will be glad to be watching.
Really appreciate it.